Hi, my name is Yakira Levi, publisher for Wideview Publishing. Wideview Publishing is a leader in both music and literary publishing. We publish books, music, and media. These are some of the books that we've published so far, and our most recent publication is Trust, Classroom Management, Time to Rebuild Understanding Between Students and Teachers. Today, we will sit down and talk with some of the authors of the book. There are 4 authors: Marcella Graves, Jamillah Kareem, April Weaver, and Michelle Yisrael. April Weaver cannot join us today, but we do have the other authors on hand.
Good evening. My name is Jamillah Kareem, and I'm a retired educator from CPS and the alternative school networks. It's been a delight and a pleasure for me to be able to interact with students. I am the mother of 6 biological children and 6 children that have accompanied me through my journey and my learning process. I have been a midwife, I've been a sister, a friend, a traveler. I've just enjoyed my life. And I like to share what I'm doing with others. This book has allowed us an avenue to do just that. Sister Amira and Sister Aquila and Sister April, we have been friends for many, many, many moons.
Many moons.
I've delivered a few of their children. We have worked in a variety of settings, and we've been blessed for our lives to keep intersecting with each other.
And my name is Michelle Yisrael. Everybody calls me Amira, and I don't mind either. I have 5 children of my own, and several that were always at my house, so they like mine also. I have been in education since I was 19. That was about 1978. So I've taught every level of education ever since then. Right now, I am assistant professor of English, composition, and literature at Kennedy King College. I love my job. I love what I do. I love growing and collaborating with other educators. I learn from my students every day. And if you hear someone call me Amira like Jamillah just did, that's me, Michelle.
Amira, hi. I'm known as Aquila, though Marcella Graves is my birth name, my legal name, but Aquila is my most affectionate name, and I'm well known, perhaps more so as that. I'm also a retired teacher. I've taught in the CPS systems for over 20 years. I completed bachelor's degree, master's, type 75, and EDS degrees. I've been a teacher. You know, I think we're all teachers. I think we've been teachers probably since from the womb. You know, so teachers are definitely teachers from classroom settings, but you know, our experiences began long before we were actual teachers in the classroom.
Yes.
And so I have 6 children, host of grandchildren, and as along with Jamillah, also a midwife, doctor, lawyer. That's a little cliche. I have a passion, as do my cohorts, for the education of our children. And it's a real big piece for us because we've seen a lot through the years, as Jamillah says, between the 4 of us, Jamillah, Michelle, April, and myself, we have over 100 years of educational experiences, pedagogies, strategies, the whole 9 yards. And so we've seen a lot through the years. So we've worked together not only in the educational settings inside of the classroom, but outside of the classroom as well. You know, we have been community activists.
Yes.
We have served, believe we have tried and feel that we have served our communities through the years. And this new endeavor is only an extension. Trust.
Or what we've done.
It's only an extension of what our vision, our dreams, and our hopes are, not only for our children, but for our community, and in the long run for society. So we're glad to be here, you know, and we're glad to be given a voice by Yakira to say, you know, and to invite you all into our world, you know, to share with us.
Yeah. We're called Urban E.D.U coach, and it just so happened maybe 8 years ago, there were 6 of us at the time, and we all had our own businesses. Mine was Urban E.D.U coach, and we were doing things together, consulting together, and as a collective of 6 people, we called ourselves EDU Innovators. But since that time, you know, things have happened in life. Life has happened, and nobody was able to keep their website going except for me. It's because I'm a workaholic and I don't have anything to do anyway. So once we actually wrote the book, and it happened, it was not accidental, but it wasn't a plan. We decided that, you know, we put our work aside, our work that we did together aside, and some of the things that were going on in our individual lives had stopped, and we wanted to continue the work. So we just started writing because we didn't know what direction the work was going in at the time. So we were all over the place. April was somewhere else. Jamillah was in Los Angeles. Aquila was in Los Angeles. And so we would just, every evening, we would go in a Google Doc. Everybody be on their phones in a Google Doc, and we just write. We fussed a little bit. Actually, we fussed a lot.
Yeah, we did.
We did. But it worked out because our vision was the same. Our vision is to empower educators and anybody who works with our young people to help them succeed. We know how to do that. Right. We've done that in different areas, in different places. I have been a principal. I owned my own school for 17 years. I homeschooled my children. People found out about it, and the next thing I knew, I had 12 young people on my enclosed back porch. And so a couple of years later, we had to branch out and go into a storefront. I have since been a principal of an alternative school. Actually, Jamillah and I were co-directors of an alternative school. And I must say, when I first stepped into the alternative school arena, I thought those kids were going to eat me up because I wasn't used to that. But, you know, they are children. Even though they were teenagers, many of them off the street, they still want the same thing that our kids wanted. They wanted love, and they wanted direction. They wanted somebody to care about them. So, you know, my fears were unjustified.
And
because...
So, our shared vision is that we saw a lot of things going on in the school system that we felt were not serving our kids, and a lot of them because perhaps those who were serving them really didn't understand the needs of our children.
And there's more so now.
More so now.
More so now. A lot of the teachers that are in our schools right now, they don't understand our kids.
They really don't.
They don't know our culture. You know, they don't know that these children are highly intelligent, and they don't understand that they want to learn.
They really do.
They don't understand that they know when you can't see them behind them. They don't know our kids.
Well, where we always have worked from is from a position of love.
And community.
I remember having some visitors come into one of the alternative schools I was at, and she asked me, she said, well, why are they calling you Mama Jamillah? I said, because I treat them like they're my children, first of all.
Yeah.
And I'm a very strict and stern parent, but each student here knows how much I really love them.
That comes from our culture. That comes from our Eastern, our African, our Middle Eastern culture. We are all their mothers.
Right.
The brothers are all their fathers.
Right, and then our backgrounds. You know, we are pretty much in the same generation, and so we came out of a time when community was everything. We had the Miss Shirley's, the Miss Davis.
And I know you remember the time where you can do something on one end of the block or even around the corner.
Somebody said it.
And by the time you got home, maybe hours later, your mother knew, your father knew. And so everybody on the block, they had the ability to check you.
Yeah, and then our teachers came out of the same community.
Yes. Right.
You know, just like for us as educators, we were right there in the community with our children, so which gave us insights and inlays into who these kids really are.
It was not uncommon to have your teacher sit 2 rows from you in church.
Right. Or stay in the next block.
Or stay on the next block.
Or something, you know.
So there's a new thing in education now, collaboration. And I use the word all the time because it's part of what I do. Oh, I use the word all the time. It's part of what I do at work at Kennedy King College. But for us, the word collaboration is nothing new. It simply meant
community.
Thank you.
Right? Community.
Community.
Right.
It's the same thing. When we ran the Israel Academy, if there were a student who had a problem, a difficulty, since we all had that student, I had that student for reading and language arts, Jamillah had the student for science, Aquila had the student for history or music, somebody else, the math teacher. So we would all figure out what makes that student tick.
Yeah,
exactly.
And see,
where is this problem coming from? And so we would collaborate, our community would collaborate and bring the parent in.
Bring the parent in.
Bring the parent
and bring the community
in.
in.
Bring the community in. Bring the janitor in. Bring the cook in.
The businessman.
This is our community.
Right,
so
our
we'd
community.
all figure out what to do for this one child having a problem. And it really worked. Collaboration, what we call it today, community, it works.
Michelle has mentioned, Israel Academy. And Israel Academy perhaps is the prototype for the whole idea of homeschooling today and alternative schools, charter schools, because this was one of the first schools, and this was what year? Israel Academy was
Well,
born?
it was after EPE.
We did have EPE.
The administration.
Yeah, Shulia
Watoto.
on the west side.
The brother Hannibal Afrik.
Yes.
When I started, he and Follow-Me, their school on the west side was in full-fledged, and they were so wonderful. They allowed me to come there to observe, to help. So and then they came to my school also, to our school, and then they were so wonderful. They were family. They wanted the Israel Academy to work and to flourish, so they mentored me.
And we wanted homeschool because we knew even then that the schools were not giving our children what we felt that they needed. And we wanted more control over what our children should be taught.
And at EPE, when every year we had a science fair, we brought all those small schools, all the children from those small schools together, and we had a science fair. It was just absolutely marvelous.
Wasn't it, Jamillah?
And that's just a reminder that we have to live the motto, that they say it takes a village.
Yes.
So when we say that, we have to encompass what that really is.
Yeah.
You have got to know the students. And in knowing the students, you have to know the parents. And in knowing the parents have to know the teachers.
Yes.
And the teachers have to be known by the administrators.
Yeah.
It's one continual circle.
Yeah.
And if the circle gets broken, then our children
Are broken.
Which is what's happening
And that's
now.
what's happening right now.
Everybody's
Yeah.
afraid of somebody.
Yeah.
The administrators are afraid of whoever's downtown. The teachers are afraid of the administrator.
Right.
And the students aren't afraid of anybody.
Right, and then the idea of community, because remember, collaboration is relatively new on the educational forefront.
It
You
is.
know, so the idea of community,
But not to us.
was not to us, but just overall in the whole educational process, community was not on the table.
Right.
You know, somewhere along the way we had it,
Right.
but somewhere along the way it got lost.
Defragmentized.
Yeah, it's got fragmentized.
Fragmentized.
And we
I'm
want
sorry.
to
We want to defragmentize
Defragmentize
it.
You know.
Yes.
And so that was the idea of our book,
Yeah.
Trust.
Yeah.
And that's the acronym for
Time to rebuild understanding.
Between students and teachers.
Okay, now what does that look like?
What it looks like is it all becoming a community again.
Understand.
Again, full circle.
Full circle.
Each person is a part of the puzzle.
Yes.
And if you don't have that piece, you have an incomplete puzzle.
Yes.
And therefore, the students are incomplete persons.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can't blame the student for what we didn't do.
But we did not do. And until our theories, you know, like Michelle say, our lens, we have a number of theoretical lenses that we have drawn our conclusions, our decision making out of. Foremost, we use the whole child theory, where, like Jamillah said, it's going to take all of us to undo what has been put into play in terms of dealing with our children. And so the idea of the book, though it's for teachers in the classroom, it's also for teachers outside of the classroom, because we're all teachers.
Yes.
From the moment we birth our children, we become teachers.
Yes.
We
And
become
everyone in the
facilitators.
community
And
becomes a
everyone
teacher.
is responsible.
And that's what we've lost.
Right, that's what we've lost.
That's what we've
Right,
lost.
because this child will either marry one of yours, or if not given the right direction, he may be the one breaking into your back door. So we have an obligation to our children, you know, and so we identified our children as urban, 21st century, digital natives. And we have a responsibility to learn, to figure out what does it take, meet them where they are, and to come up with solutions on how to best serve them.
Yes, because what's happening right now is there's this thing that we've all heard about, mass incarceration.
Yes.
Our young people are going into prisons in droves, males and females. In the alternative schools that we worked in, it was very common for young people to come to school with an ankle bracelet, having to be required by their probation officers to be in school. And the probation officers would come into the schools and check from time to time.
Right.
And, you know, that needs to stop.
And remember, research says what? That our kids are being targeted as early as third
grade,
and fourth grade.
Third grade.
And they're
what
building prisons.
What I see in college right now, there are 18-year-olds being enrolled, trying to enroll in college, and they don't have the appropriate literacy skills.
Right.
And now the federal government is cutting out all remedial and developmental classes. Did anybody know about that? Who saw that coming?
Right.
That means how many of our young people who are ill prepared by the public school systems that cannot read, cannot think on a critical level, how many of them will not be able to attend college?
Right.
And it's not by happenstance.
Right.
It's by design.
It's by
By
design.
design.
So it is time for us as a community to take back the control of educating our own.
Yes.
If this fails, we have no one to blame but ourselves.
Yes.
We are of the generation where when I meet young people that are in their 40s and their 30s, I start off by apologizing.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I owe
we
them
an
We all do.
apology
Yeah.
because
We do.
we
owe them
fell
an apology.
short.
Yes, we did. We dropped
We
the ball.
dropped the ball
Dropped the ball.
by wanting to have more than what our parents had.
Yeah.
But in doing that, we forgot part
about
of the
the children.
preparation.
Right.
We did not prepare our students for the reality of the real world that they were getting ready to face.
And when I apologize, they appreciate that.
do.
They really appreciate that. I mean, the hardcore thug on the corner
Yeah.
appreciates
Right.
that apology, and then he knows or she knows that we are in their corner.
That we care. And so, and that really takes us into trust.
Mm-hmm.
When we conceived the book, we have 4 components that really makes the gist of the book. One deals with social, emotional concerns. Another deal with emotional, internal concerns, project-based learning, and then how do we bring this all together to make this all work? What's the glue to make it all stick?
Yeah.
Now, April, who's our quarter, the other 1/4 of the team, she's couldn't be here today, but she focuses on the teacher herself. And remember, the teacher is not just the teacher in the classroom, right?
Exactly.
The teacher is the mother, the father,
The mentor.
the first responder.
Yes.
Anybody
Anybody who has contact
who has
with our youth.
contact with our youth.
Yes.
And impact them in any kind of way.
Yes.
You are a teacher, and you have to see yourself as a facilitator
Right.
in the development of this child. So with April, her component says that I have to look at myself. Who am I? And when I stand before this child, this student, what do I bring to the table?
Yeah.
What did this child see? And if this child sees somebody that stands before them that really doesn't love them, that really is not concerned about their development, that really don't understand who they are, and are really not invested in them, then there's a breakdown.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes,
Right. There's a
absolutely.
breakdown.
Right.
And everybody in the building, the village, has an active role.
That's an active role.
Everybody.
The person who is cooking these children's food,
Has just as active.
love has got to
Be in that
ooze
food.
out of that
Yes.
food.
Yes.
The person who is doing maintenance and repairing things,
He's got to
you have
care
to
about.
act like this is your house.
Yes,
And when you
Your
see a
children.
child that's out of line,
Yeah.
You
you're
have
the
to be able
adult.
to check
Yeah.
him.
You got to be able to
Lovingly.
Yeah.
talk. Right. It has to be from a place of
Redirect
love.
them lovingly.
So our first component, emotional intelligence, it says that I have to first look at self. And I have to be very clear on who self is so that I am assured that I can bring the necessary strategies to the
Exactly.
table
Yeah.
that is going to empower,
Yeah.
as we say, empower this child.
Yeah.
And that's our first component. Our next component is relationship building. That's my component. And so the relationships, what we have found through the years, if that child has a relationship with you,
You can have a meeting out of your hands.
it's nothing he won't do
Nothing he
for
or she
you.
won't do for you.
He won't, nothing that he won't do
Nothing.
or won't give to you.
Yes.
So it's imperative that we understand that relationships are so very important. It really is the glue, and it's the element that you're going to find in
Yeah.
each and every component.
Yeah.
So relationships.
The others
What kind-
won't work unless you have an appropriate, professional, and loving relationship
Yeah,
with
you know,
every single child.
with every single child.
As individuals.
Right. And then with the teachers who work with you, again, with the community,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
because
And the parents.
again, like Jamillah says, we can't do this if all of us are not willing participants in the safety, in the education, in the development, in the cultivation of our children.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
You know. And then my component is project-based. And the reason that I'm a passionate person about project-based instructions or lessons or both is that you have to understand the student that you are trying to educate.
Meet them where they
We
are.
all have different learning styles.
Yes.
So if you don't understand my learning style, you can't reach me.
You're right.
You know, if I tell you I don't understand this, you have to really understand and accept I don't understand it.
Right.
So how do I reach you? Project-based allows you to reach that student where they're at, to include them in the learning process, allow them for teachable moments,
It makes education
and
relevant
empower
for
them in their own educational process.
Yes.
It has to be relevant to what their interest is.
Right.
We can stick to the curriculum, but you have to figure out how to bring the student in.
And don't just say too, Jamillah, that with project-based learning, it gives them a longer time to process the information.
Yes.
Whereas currently, the children are not given enough time to process something before they've moved on to another skill and expected to develop. And our children just do not function in that manner, right?
Right.
You've said that a number of
Yes,
times.
project-based allows for the student to develop and enhance and cultivate their own learning process. It helps them to
Solutions.
develop their critical thinking skills. This is what's going to carry them on
It
Yes.
is.
through
It
the
is.
rest of their life.
Yes, it is.
Right.
And what it also does, it allows the instructor to scaffold a sound structure and foundation for them. It allows the instructor to take them from each level of Bloom's taxonomy, from
the top.
from understanding,
Yeah.
remembering, and comprehending facts, all the way to the top of that
Creation.
pyramid, where they actually use these new skills to create and synthesize,
Right.
and to understand in a deeper level.
So
And
that
then
brings
Michelle,
us
when
to
you
you.
say it brings us to your component.
And my component is engaging students in academic and educational strategies to help them teach and learn. Because when
And
a young
manage.
when a young person is able to teach another student, then they understand that thing in a deeper way. But first of all, they've got to figure out what they're going to teach them and how they're going to teach them. And it also helps engaging students in active learning. So what strategies do we need to create or to research and to utilize that would bring all these things,
All these components together.
all
into
these
one.
components together, so that there is a balance. There is teaching going on and learning going on. I'm sure you've been in the classroom where there was a teacher teaching her butt off. She was doing some really good teaching,
And the children
but
they were not responsible.
they were not learning.
They were not
They weren't
learning.
engaged.
They were not engaged, and they were not active. They may have been quiet and listening even,
Right.
but they were not learning. So there has to be a balance. There has to be teaching going on and learning. And how do we know that teacher is teaching those students?
And remember, we're saying that teaching and learning are the same side, are two different sides of the same coin.
Yeah,
You know,
Exactly.
because we're learning from our students are learning from us.
Yeah.
And the idea,
And learning from each other.
the community, the old adage is that you pull out what is there.
Yeah.
Because everything that this child needs he's already been equipped.
Yes.
And it's our job as facilitators is to help him to extrapolate what that is,
Yes.
to pull that out, and then how to frame it so it best fit his vision of where he sees himself in life and how he wants to go. And present education doesn't do that.
It doesn't.
You know, they spend all their time trying to put into the kid what they want, or the student, instead of trying to find out what is already there and how do I help to cultivate that.
Yes, and so part of what I do is to make sure with the instructor or anybody who's working with our children to help them with the strategies to make every minute count.
You know, and so that is pretty much the gist of what trust is about, classroom management. And though it says classroom management, as we said before, it's much bigger than that.
It is.
We've cast a very wide net with the publication and the production of this book, because we're saying that we need the community. We need the businessman, the entrepreneur. We need you to understand who this student is, so that you can best know how to serve him. What is his needs? We need, of course, the parent, because the first social unit is the parent. So how do you best serve? We have to become servants, and perhaps one of our most important of all the leadership styles is transformational leadership. We have to be able to transform their way of thinking, and the best way we can do that is to learn how to serve. How do we serve our students so that we can bring out the best in them? And that's what trust classroom management is all about.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we said before, it's a compilation of all of our experiences. We've all been educators, administrators, community activists, mothers, name it. We've all been that. And so we're saying that this is not the only solution. It's not the solution, but it's a viable one. And it has worked for us.
Yeah.
And we know teachers are crying out for support. They need someone to just take their hand.
Yes.
Give them a little time to breathe.
Yeah.
It can't just be all the script that we're given, because some of these schools now, they have a script, and you have to follow that script.
You have to follow
You
the
don't
script.
get to be
Very
creative.
micromanaged.
So if a teacher can't be creative in what he's given to the student, then the student's creativity is being stifled.
A good example, one of my grandchildren, he's a sophomore this year, and he was telling me about his favorite teacher. His favorite teacher out of all his teachers, and he's in AP classes, you know, and he's saying his most favorite teacher was that teacher that gave him the assignment and allowed him to problem solve. Because having to follow their script, he couldn't do it.
Exactly.
You know, because it took, for one, it took the zeal of learning away from him.
Right.
You know, because they wanted to decide what goes in
And how.
and how it
And
should
when.
go in and when and what should come out.
Yes.
And learning, which we know that's not what learning is about.
No.
You know, we have to find where he is, meet him where he's at, and then facilitate.
Yeah.
Which is greater than just educating, is to, you know, it's an art form. How do we become artists with a pen and pencil and canvas in our hands and help this child create his world?
You know, one of the things that I do every 4 weeks in a 16-week semester is I ask students, what is it that you need me to do to make sure that you are learning?
That you are learning.
And I give them time to write that out.
Yes.
I take it back to my office. I read every one of them. And they are so surprised when they see me using some of those things that they said that that they wanted me to do for them. And it really works.
Right. And then
find out what they need.
Michelle has a good another good point. We know that our children today are no longer traditional learners.
Right.
They didn't learn the way we learn. We know that our children are suffering from illiteracy, no competency skills across the board, and we see that.
And if April were here, she would say they were malnourished.
And April would say a lot of it has to do
With
their diet.
You know, they're not being fed nourishing food, or not being fed at all when they
At
come
all,
to school.
in some cases.
When they come to school, not at all.
Yeah.
You know, and so what we're saying is that with this child who's now called the digital native, is that we can no longer teach them the way we were taught. You know, because they're not that same child anymore, you know. Amira has an excellent strategy where she uses the cell phones because, you know, everybody doesn't necessarily
Everybody's got a cell phone. And all the
everybody's got a
schools,
cell phone.
all the schools have the same complaint. It's not enough computer labs. Some of
infrastructure
the
is
computers
terrible.
don't work.
Yeah.
And they have these elaborate systems for collecting these cell phones every morning.
Yeah.
It's funny. And distributing them again in the evening.
Right. And
Well, every single student, well, most of them anyway, they have an actual computer in their hands.
Yes.
So why don't we use these computers as a tool?
As a tool.
You already have a lab. You have a computer lab. Ask those kids how many. Ask everybody. Pull out your phone. And the ones that did not turn theirs in, got it past the front desk, they got it tucked away somewhere. Pull those phones out. I'm able to create a Word document on my phone. I can go into Google Doc. I can go into PowerPoint and create a slideshow. I mean, I can do research. Nobody has a dictionary anymore. Nobody's buying them. Nobody has a thesaurus. But guess what?
They have a phone.
There you go.
Right.
And I tell you this also, when I do not follow the rule, and forgive me, and make my students put those cell phones away, they respect that. They were like, "You ain't gonna make us put our phone away?" I'm like, "No, because we're gonna use that phone for academic purposes only."
Yeah.
And when I drill into them what academic purposes are, and somebody else pulls out a phone to do something else on social media, the other students will check them. I don't have to say anything. And then I hope my students aren't watching, because I say, if you are on social media or sending a text message, I know you're doing it because there's a body language in it. I can tell.
And then as a musician, you know, we all understand the importance of music in our strategies. Jamillah had, as a principal at one of the alternative schools, tell them about it, Jamillah.
Well,
with the music
I
and
would
the bell.
I would greet my students in the morning, and one of the reasons for greeting them was to gauge where the students was at,
For that,
so you could get a pulse of what your students are feeling like. So if I got 5 or 10 kids coming in, and they were agitated, then I found some music that was soothing and calming, that would change the whole vibration of the building. And then I did not change classes by that bell system. We changed with music.
with music.
And the students
Yes.
enjoyed it.
They enjoyed
embraced
that.
it, and they decided, well, I'm going to bring this music for her, so
Exactly.
she could use this for a certain length of time.
When we co-directed at
One of the schools.
I'm about to say the name. We co-directed, and it was just amazing to have those students bringing in music, and they knew which kind of music was going to be appropriate. Because one young man brought in the song, and somebody else said, "Man, you know that they're not going to play that song." You know they're not going to play that. And one time I had a young man, and he came in after a weekend, and he must have been on the corner doing his thing on the corner all weekend, because he came in on Monday and he said, "You know what, Miss Israel, I'm mad at you." And I'm like, "For what?" "I haven't seen you since Friday." because you had me on the street and I was singing the song that you played for third period, and my boys was just looking at me. I'm like, you know what? It's because you have outgrown that corner.
Okay.
It's time for you to come out that corner and do something else with your life now.
And so you might, ask, well, why music, why technology? But this is who our children are today.
That's who they are.
Our children are governed by music. Our children
Yeah.
are governed by technology.
Yes.
Our children are governed by personal
Creativity.
Yeah, by creativity.
They can create some things.
So as educators, we got to identify those aspects and teach out of that vernacular, because that's who they are today.
Exactly.
That's who they are. Now, so the book, again, we're pushing the book, and let us be clear that our greatest desire, our greatest passion is the education of our children. If we don't educate our children, nobody else can but us, number one. And number two, the idea of education is so that they can contribute back to society. And so they can't.
We want them productive. They're not. Many of them are not being productive now. But you can get the book on Amazon.com.
Yeah. Amazon.com.
Just look on Amazon, and you have to put in the acronym. If you just put in trust without the acronym,
You're likely to pull
other
up
stuff are gonna come
20
up.
other books.
Put the acronym in, and it will come up.
Right.
Amazon.com.
And we are passionate about our children. We're passionate about what we do, and we know that the responsibility and the onus of responsibility falls on us, on our generation.
Exactly.
Because in a way, it really started with us, and we take the responsibility that we dropped the ball.
Yeah.
So we're asking for community. Let us all feel that we have a responsibility to our children, and that we can change things, and we can turn this around. The last alternative does not have to be the prison pipeline or dropouts.
We have
or
to change
whatever.
that.
Yes.
We can do that.
And we are available to come to your school or your church or your community center to conduct book club, workshops. Yeah. We can help you fix it.
Professional development.
Professional development.
Yes.
So
thank you.
Thank you.
This has been a conversation on trust, classroom management, time to rebuild understanding between students and teachers, written by the 4 women of Urban E.D.U. Coach and published by Wideview Publishing. Please go online at Amazon.com to purchase a copy of this book in either ebook or paperback format. Thank you so much. Bye for now.